If you play any esports title, smurfing is just something you have to deal with. GG, go next. But Valve recently banned smurfing from Dota 2 entirely. So today, we're going to take a look at what that means, not only for Dota 2, but for other games like Valorant as well. A smurf ruining your game might be unexpected, but you know what isn't? Me asking you to absolutely destroy that subscribe button and ring that notification bell if you haven't already. We're trying to get our YouTube MMR to 2 million, and we're hoping you can help carry a little bit. Plus, if you do, then you'll know the moment we have a new story for you. GG. Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with smurfing, just bear with me. Like a Lee Sin in Challenger queuing into a silver game, I promise I'll make this quick. The basic explanation is that it's a way for skilled players to circumvent their rank and play against players they'd never normally face. Normally, that means a second account. And in a free-to-play game, it's easy enough to get one. But why smurf at all? A lot of people who smurf say that they do it to play ranked with friends who otherwise wouldn't be able to queue together. A common response is just, okay, so don't play ranked then? But for those same people, making the number go up is important. And in the streaming world, taking an account from bronze to the highest level is pretty common. Oftentimes it's done with some kind of special restriction in place, like only playing one hero or only playing a certain role, all in the pursuit of that sweet, sweet content. Just take TF Blade, for example, who decided he was gonna go from bronze to challenger on every league server on the planet, which is possibly the most ambitious smurfing challenge ever. We did a whole video about this crazy adventure a while back. If you want more info on the origins of smurfing, we did a video back in 2018, which I also hosted, that goes a little bit more in-depth.
Warp and I enjoy making up names and playing people at war too. We make them think we really suck and then beat them up. We have lots of fun playing as Smurfs. We talk in Smurfs. We smurf us an ass at war too. I guess that is totally childish, but it sure is fun.
Yeah, so the videos were a little different back then. Anyway, from a skill perspective, people who are smurfing don't belong in the games that they're in. Then on March 24th, Valve straight up banned Smurfs from Dota 2. Like, the notoriously hands-off Valve just decided to tackle one of the biggest problems plaguing games. It's honestly pretty shocking. They've actually been tracking Smurf accounts for a while now, and like many games, they try to put those accounts in games against each other. But now if you smurf in Dota 2, your account will simply be banned. Starting today, smurfing will be a bannable offense. We will primarily focus on new accounts created after today for which we have high confidence in their smurfing and game ruining behavior. Furthermore, if you're found to be selling accounts, boosting, or engaged in similar game ruining behaviors, your primary account may also be subject to a ban. Yes! Your primary account won't be banned unless you're selling accounts or boosting, seemingly. This change is part of a bigger patch that does a lot to make the game friendlier to new players. It just makes sense, given that Valve missed the International 2020, and Dota generally is just pretty difficult for new players. Oh yeah, they released a Dota 2 anime as well. That's pretty cool, I guess. Insert Anyway, Valve's decision is a huge step against smurfing. It's a commitment to fairness, of course, but it's also a big undertaking that developers can't commit to lightly. To be clear, Valve's new hardline approach towards smurfing isn't the norm. In many games, including League of Legends, smurfing is just accepted as an evil of a matchmaking system that tries to pit opponents against each other in a fair way. Sure, there are measures in place to detect and then move smurfs out of MMR brackets they don't belong in, but generally speaking, smurfing itself is not directly penalized.
Whose account is this? Don't worry about whose account this is. Don't worry about it. There's two hookah.
Your fault. One enemy remains.
In Clash, League's tournament system, there are rules against it. And Riot says that they'll ban Smurfs that engage in game-ruining behavior, but for the most part, it's something that you just have to deal with. Speaking of Riot, it seems like they're taking their 12 years of dealing with smurfing in League and applying what they've learned to Valorant. Since its early days, Riot has developed Valorant with smurfing in mind. Back in patch 1.6, they made it so that forfeiting unrated matches doesn't count towards ranked. This forced players on a Smurf account to actually play the 20 unranked matches in order to unlock competitive. Before this change, Smurf players got around this by killing themselves at the beginning of a round, which caused players to forfeit games and tricked Valorant's system into checkmarking those games as played. Then in October 2020, during a developer Q&A, Riot had this to say about smurfing. While it's hard to stop smurfing entirely in a free-to-play game, we are taking action to combat it. Right now, we have a behind-the-scenes system for unranked, as well as one that applies to Iron through Diamond ranked players. The latter tracks an individual's performance and notices when a player makes a highly disproportionate impact in a game. We then quickly boost them to harder matches and higher ranks in competitive. Then in November, with patch 1.14, Riot made it so that ranked Valorant play required 10 wins and not 10 games played, which should hopefully cut down on people just AFKing in matches so they can begin to smurf. Then recently, in early March, Riot released patch 2.04 and noted that they were continuing to balance ranked, so that as you rank up, quote, you'll find a tighter disparity to ensure we continue to maintain balanced matches and protect the competitive integrity of the higher ranks. According to Riot, these small changes will combat smurfing by reducing the incentive to make a new account to play with lower rank friends. All of this is to say that Riot seems to be doing everything they can to combat smurfing in Valorant, short of outright banning smurfing in the game. But who knows, maybe we'll see a Smurf-sized bomb dropped on the game at a later date. Here's Hiko giving his thoughts about smurfing in Valorant, as well as talking about the problem in general.
Smurfing ruins two separate things, right? Smurfing ruins the game you're in, so not only the person that you're playing with, you're ruining that guy or girl's account by boosting the rank and getting them wins they shouldn't get, and they're not getting it on their own, they're not getting better. You're also boosting all the people on your team because you're getting them a free win if you're getting like 50 kills. But also you're ruining the game for the person that you're smurfing with, the person you're boosting. That person they're ruining the game for everyone on their team in the future when they end up solo queuing and they're Immortal 1, but they should be Silver. So smurfing literally only hurts in the immediate future and in the long-term future.
And why do people smurf in Valorant? Well, one reason might be that, like League, Valorant has this culture of prestige about having multiple high-level accounts. Like Doink Machine 97, also known as Poise, who plays for Cloud9 Blue. Side note, great name, you've earned a fan for life. Obviously, when you get to the top, you're not really smurfing anymore, but that account had to start somewhere, and if my experience is any indication, it started stomping gold players with Reyna. Weirdly, in Counter-Strike, things can be a little different. Sure, there are people who smurf, but if you want to play Face It, and if you're a good CS player, you probably do, you're just not allowed to smurf. All of this leads me to this point. Is this the first move of many? Could other games implement measures like Dota did to keep players happy? At first glance, it seems unlikely. For one, doing this takes resources, and if you build an automated system to detect smurfs, sometimes it's going to get things wrong. Secondly, the most vocal advocates for changes to games tend to be players at the highest echelon of play. Pro players and content creators there.
Oh, these guys are sniping cocky.
Whoa, 44.7 meters. My 12 o'clock right now.
Wait, I could have won!
Straight north there too. Straight north there too.
Dude! Draw. Could have won, dude.
Okay, most content creators tend to be playing at a higher level. Smurfing typically isn't an issue they encounter, so it's not something they're likely to be complaining about. And they're the ones with the biggest platforms to advocate for change to this game. And there's another reason why Smurf accounts are unlikely to be banned in other games. it's bad for business. Even if an account is free to play, Smurf players can still buy things for those accounts. And if their incredible performance makes the game fun for a couple of their friends, and they end up spending money in the game, well, that's even better. With all that said, why ban Smurfs? Well, the answer is that playing against Smurfs constantly is f***ing demoralizing, and if people choose to stop playing your game as a result, that's also bad for business. As the announcement points out, Dota 2 is already really volatile without the massive skill gaps. Unless you're the kind of player that loves getting stomped by a smurfing Ricky, in which case...
Stop it. Get some help.
Learning a game like Dota 2 is a journey. You've got a long way to go, and players want that experience to be like a satisfying hike or a challenging climb, not a plane crash in the wilderness. But with all the emphasis on both bringing in new players and making their experiences positive, it sure seems like it's a priority for Dota 2's development team. So will other developers do it? While I hope so, it's still really hard to imagine. Most of them favor solutions that simply detect the Smurfs and then get them as far away as possible from players that they shouldn't be matched with. But I'm willing to bet that the other big developers will be watching this experiment closely. If banning Smurfs can help players flock to a complex game like Dota 2, imagine what it could do for those other games. What do you think? Should we just suffer through the Smurfs, or is it time to hit them with the old ban hammer?
No prisoners for the Emperor!
Let us know in the comments below. Like I'm at like fucking belly buster subs trying to just get my order, but it's the sub. I mean, that's a good point though. If you get shrunk down to Smurf size and you order a foot-long sub, that's like probably 2 meals, right? You're probably saving huge dollars on food. Which
That's the rest of your world. Like, you literally can't see over the top of the sub if you're sitting down next to it.